Hi, this is Don Schaefer. Once again, we have a YouTube clip that we're putting together here, and we've been doing this. Eventually, it's going to be with YouTube, it's going to be on Instagram, it's going to be on Facebook, it's going to be many areas here, and I want to invite you to be a part of this tonight. We've got something big that we're working on. I do have people with me here tonight, so if you see me look around, that's why I'm doing that. But you know, the thought I wanted to share with you just starting out is the fact that everything that is needed in your life is already in you. God did not make you incomplete. The way we've been designed, the way we've been put together, God has given everything. He's figured out our size, our looks, our place, everything. God has given us the opportunity of living a life for Him. And that's the exciting thing that we're trying to do. And the course we're working on here, the series is Personal Transformation, creating a life that you can't wait to live. And we've been going through a series here. And I know last week we talked about being all that you can be. We talked about the only person that can stop you is you. And that if we live a life unchallenged, we live a life that is unchanged, and that we need to be connected to a source. And I know tonight we're going to talk a little bit about that too, talking about the source in our life. Jesus Christ needs to be that source, and if we can get connected with that, we can have everything we need, and we can become the person that we've always wanted to be. And the scripture we've been using throughout this whole series is in Romans chapter 12, verses 1 and 2. And I'm going to quickly read through this again. It says, "Therefore I urge you, brothers and sisters, by the mercies of God, to present your bodies as a living sacrifice, holy and well-pleasing to God, which is your reasonable act of worship. And do not be conformed to this world, but be transformed and progressively changed by the renewing of your mind, so that you may prove what the will of God is, that which is good and acceptable and perfect." So God has a plan for every one of us that is good, acceptable, and perfect. But it takes a change of mind. You know, the world programs us, and that's where we've been looking at life and saying the fact that we are basically a piece of hard drive born into this world, and what we acquire is software, and it's how we're being trained, it's how we're looking at things. And what Paul in the Bible is saying, that we possibly need to look at things in a different way. We need to get our mind thinking in a different way. And that's what this program is all about. It's helping you to see things in a different way. And tonight, I'm going to be titling this Always in the Game 2.12. It's going to be an upgrade to be able to realize you're always in the game. And hopefully we can give you a different perspective on it. I've got a quote here from David Goggins. It goes, "There are times in life when we become so disconnected from ourselves that we must drill down and rewire those and cut connections in our hearts, mind, and soul." Okay, yeah, and we're going to be talking a little bit about that, because there's connections we make, the way we see things, the way we handle life, and a lot of times we have to be in a place where we cut some of this or get ourselves rewired in a different way. But I'm going to be doing things a little bit different tonight. I have been talking about points, but I'm going to be talking about words. And we talked about this a little bit last time we got together. And, you know, in the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word became flesh and dwelt among us. Everything that was created in life, God used a spoken word. So I'm going to be using keywords here tonight, and we're going to try to put some meaning behind it. A lot of times these words are where they're used. They're where they're used and how they're placed in a sentence that brings life to them. So the first word I'm going to be talking about is connections. There are connections that must be made. There's connections. Nobody needs, we have to make connections. This whole course, everything here is not a self-help. This isn't a 12-step program of self-improvement, trying to make you a better and this and better and all that. It's the connections that we make. And that's where most programs that people get involved in, they buy lots of books, lots of stuff. You know, they'll make some changes, but they don't make the complete change. There has to be a connection made. If we don't get connected to the source, which we talked about last week, which is Jesus Christ, we don't get connected to the source that created us. It doesn't matter what other connections we might have. We can buy all kinds of self-improvements and motivational stuff and all this stuff, and it's all great. Don't get me all wrong on that, but it isn't going to make the change in your life that the source is going to make. And that's why and there's how would you say, there's a process of making that connection. And we're going to be talking about that tonight. And so stay with me on this. My second word that I'm going to share with you is belief. It's belief. Stirring up a gritty belief that is potent and forceful. Stirring up a belief. It is a flicker of light in a dark world that is needed in your life. There is so much doubt in this world today. It's our belief process. And if anything anybody can get is developing a good believing part of them. I had an opportunity of spending some time with a couple this week, and I talked about the things of God. I talked about the future. And she says, I have such a hard time believing. And I'm sitting there saying, that's what most people have. They have a hard time believing. And everything that God has, He's got the process of we have to believe. We have to place our faith in Him. And that's where I know I read this past week that 24% of only 24% of the people in America believe that the Bible is the true Word of God. So what we're living here is a whole bunch of unbelievers. And we wonder why people struggle, why lives don't develop the way they should. It's a belief process. God says, I've got everything. But you have to believe. You have to trust in Him. And it's not stuff so much that you see. It is a process of believing things that you do not see. And we're going to try to explain this real well. And hopefully it'll give you a different look at what belief is all about. And maybe give you an opportunity to see things in a different light. But my next word is need. My next word is need. And the need for something greater than just hope for the future. Okay, a lot of people don't realize that they have needs. They're living life and situations are happening, and they might have needs, but they don't even know that they have needs. A lot of our life on this earth, as far as us being developed to the completeness that God has intended for us, is to realize that we need Him. We need His input. We need His direction. We need His strength. We need His wisdom. We need all parts and aspects of Him. But most people are living a life just hoping that everything works out. I'm just one of the crowd. I'm just going to hope that everything works out. This is very shallow, very shallow. We need to be conditioned mentally to survive and flourish. We need to realize that if there's things out there, and we need to flourish in these areas. And I know back in the 1950s, I read of a scientist, and his name was Kurt Richter, and he came up with an experiment. Scientists do this, and a lot of times they use rats, and he used rats too, to see what, how it'll affect rats, because a lot of times it'll affect us in those ways too. But what he decided to do is he took a glass tube, and it was 30 inches high. It was a round tube filled with water. He took a dozen rats, and he put them one by one into this tube, and rats are good swimmers. They're good swimmers. But one by one, he watched, they'd go down to the bottom, they would go around this tube, and they'd find no way of escaping and getting out of this tube. One by one, they passed away. And some of them was as early as 2 minutes. 2 minutes in this tube, and they were drowning. Some of them, it was maybe 6 minutes, 10 minutes, or whatever. But one by one, they all passed away. So he said, this is interesting. So then what he did, he took the same tube of water, got another dozen rats, and he put them in one by one. But he waited until they went down to the bottom and they were panicky and all this and not knowing what to do. And he took every one of them out, and he dried them off. He cuddled them, he held them until their heart rate went back to where it belonged, to where they were comfortable. He did this with them a couple of times. And then he went and put these rats back into the tube, 30 inches deep, round tube, and they swam. And some of them swam up to 80 hours. There was just something, because they had more than just a wish and a hope. They had a belief that they were going to be saved. that somewhere along the lines they were going to be taken out of there and they're going to be cuddled, all this stuff. These rats swam for 60 to 80 hours in this tube because there was something connected and inside of them that says, hey, you know what? There is something that's going to reach out and save me. And this is something that can be working inside of us also. It's a belief process that we sometimes need to turn on, because a lot of times people saying, you know, this looks pretty bad, I don't believe it's going to happen. But we need to get ourselves into a place where it's more than just hoping for the future. I'm developing a belief. I know that if I continue on in the right ways, I'm going to make this. You know, I'm going to survive this. I'm going to become everything I possibly can. And it's a mindset. You know, so this Richter, he showed it in rats. There is a level mindset that people can step into that will get them, doesn't matter what the circumstances are, they will make it because they have not only a hope, but they have a faith that it's there for them. My next word is levels. Levels. Okay, there are different levels in your belief systems. Okay, that's the way it is in life. A lot of things are levels. Okay, the rats had a belief system that were beyond belief. They refused to die. They had gotten to the point where they reserved themselves. I don't know if they were doing the backstroke or if they were floating or what they were doing on that water, but they found ways to survive for 60 or 80 hours. You know, and that's the same thing with us. You know, we can be taught a level of belief. We can say, you know, that's all you need to do is believe, you know, and you go through a series that, or you can read about it and all that. But there is something about going through the trauma, of going through the hard things, of really reaching out and digging deep, that causes a different level of belief. And I believe we've been created not only to live a surface life, but to dig deep. You know, not to sit back and wish and hope everything is fine, but to say, hey, you know what? I need to become a believer. I need to believe that it doesn't matter how tough or how hopeless things might look. I am going to find a way. I know my Creator lives. I know my Redeemer lives, and He is going to reach out and He's going to take me out of whatever it is that I step into. And He is looking for that attitude and that type of character inside of each and every one of us. And that's where, if we can get ourselves into a place of realizing we're always in the game. You know, it doesn't matter. You know, the game might look like it's over. It's really not over. As long as we are alive, we are always in the game as far as God is concerned and His purpose and life. And that's where we need to continue on. My next word is ignore. Ignore. That's a powerful word. You can use it in a lot of different sentences. A lot of people sometimes ignore me. But anyway, getting yourself in a position to ignore the temptation to quit. Okay, getting yourself in a position to ignore the temptation to quit. Okay, we get into life, a lot of times we have to get ourselves and realize that we have to push through until we can be carried through. You know, that God will carry us. Whatever the circumstance, whatever the struggle, whatever seems hopeless, whatever seems like this ain't going to work, you know, you need to ignore the temptation to be, because there's so much in life. And a lot of times people say, well, why do you do this? Well, the reason we do this is because you're not doing it. A lot of people aren't doing the things they need to succeed in life. And I know myself, and I've said this all along, this personal transformation thing is a part of what I'm trying to do in my life. I want to see things the way Paul in the Bible is talking about. I don't want to be conformed to the world. I don't want to have social media causing all kinds of crazy thoughts in my mind. I want to go to the source. I want to go to the truth. I want to find out what's there, what God created us for. Because this isn't a game that I can afford to lose. And it's not a game that you can afford to lose. You know, we're in the game to win. And we need to realize we are always in this game. And that's where we have to be able to ignore different things and strike a different level of fuel in our life. Reach a different level where God can fuel us, where God can take care of us and walk us through. He's looking for us to be developed in Him. He takes great pride in you and I when we can sit there and reach out to Him and ask Him what He wants in the areas that He places upon our hearts, that we walk these things through. We resist and ignore the temptations to quit. We say, you know, I am not going to quit until the game is done. And right now, the game is not done. My next word is journey. The word is journey. This is a soul journey that you are on. You must get this on your own. Nobody can live this for you. It must be something that's developed inside you. And that's where a lot of times we have to get ourselves into a situation where we're not going to quit on this life. I'm not going to waste, and I don't want you to waste a good life. We get into a situation where we realize it's all a journey that all of us are on. We've been given an opportunity. We've been given an opportunity. The Bible says that God breathes life into us. The day we are born, born into this world and given an opportunity to live in this world and to walk the journey that He has given us. And a lot of times it's not an easy journey. There is going to be bumps in the road, and there's going to be situations and issues. But the end of the line is where the reward is going to be for us. And that's where we need to realize I can't sit back and have individuals in my life, well, they're going to help me with this and they're going to do this for me. It's not going to work that way. Sometimes I see mothers that do everything for their children. And when the children get older, all of a sudden they're in a real spot because the mothers have been doing everything for them. The child doesn't know how to do anything for themselves. You see, it's a lot like that in our lives. We can't have somebody else's faith, somebody else's diligence and excitement. Sometimes we read books and they're exciting to read, about this person or that person and all they have acquired and done, but that's their story. You have your own story, and we're on this journey, and when it's all said and done, it's going to be us as individuals standing before our Creator, and for Him to say, well done. You called, you faithful, and you've chosen individuals. That which I've called you to, which I've chosen you for, you've been faithful in. You've developed a belief to walk this life and to live this life. And that's where, if we can realize that it isn't, people can help us. People encourage, we help each other. We stir up faith. We talk to each other. Things we do encourage other people. But when it comes to the basic process of life, we're on this journey all by ourselves. Sometimes I sit back and I say to myself, perhaps this is with you. I don't know if this is with you or not, but perhaps you're the only individual that's alive in this world. The rest of us, this YouTube clip, this is all fictitious. I don't exist. Nobody else exists. It's only you. God has taken all these people and placed them around you, given life in the way it is, but it's all about you and how you live it. And sometimes I look at that and say, you know what? Maybe everybody in my life isn't real. Maybe God has created this big movie and I'm in the middle of it. And I'm really the only character in it. The rest of them are all fictitious, but I'm living it. See, a lot of ways, that's the way life really is. When we're in the game, we realize, we have to play the game to win the game. We have to realize that it's what we do. It's what you as an individual do in your life. It's what you develop in your life. My last word for you is life. Yes, life. That's a powerful word too. So much to it. The game of life is the most important. We are to be winners at this. The game of life is the most important. We are to be winners at this, at life. We have to be winners. See, and that's where in life when we realize that we're in the game to win it. And there's a story that I've told a couple of times, but I'd like to tell it one more time. And this took place back in 1968 in Mexico City, where this guy named Stefan Akwari from Tanzania, he was in the 26-mile marathon. I think it's 400 meters. He was in this race. He came from Tanzania. And as the story went, is somebody from Ethiopia won this race, and they had like a football stadium. They had a stadium, and the last link of this, they ran around the stadium, and the crowd was going crazy for this man from Ethiopia. But some of the crowd stayed, and about an hour later, there was a couple that trickled through, and they were cheering him on. But about an hour later, there was horns. And this Akwari from Tanzania, he came in there, the last one. There was sirens going off in police cars. There were people blowing whistles and all that. But what had happened is this gentleman from Tanzania, He had fallen early in the race and injured his leg. He had a bandage on his leg, and you could obviously see the blood and everything else, and he was hobbling. But he finished this race an hour after the first person finished this race. And afterwards, the reporters got around him and they said, "Why did you even finish this race? There was no way you were going to win this race." He said, "I came to this Olympics here from Tanzania to finish the race, not to start the race." And that was his attitude. And that's the attitude that spoke to me. That I love that story. It speaks to me. We're in this life to finish this life, not just to be a part of it, not to be birthed into this world. We're in it to win it. We're in it to finish it. That's where we need to maximize everything we do. You need to look at your life and realize there are levels of beliefs. There is areas. It isn't about hoping and wishing. It's not about getting be a part of the crowd, as a lot of people say, well, I'm no better off or no worse off than anybody else. See, God isn't interested in numbers. He's interested in you. He's interested in the life that you want to live and what you're willing to put into it and what levels you can get yourself to reach in life, and how well connected you are to Him. He's given us the hardware. He's given us software of understanding, helping us to rewire our thought system, the way we see things, the way we feel about things. God is wanting something huge and good in your life, and you are always in the game. That's why I want to encourage you in this upcoming time to continue to look at things in a different light and do like Paul said. Don't be conformed to the way the world would want to form you, but allow your mind to be transformed, to be renewed, to see things in a different way, to prove the perfect and good and acceptable will of God in your life. God has created every one of us with a purpose, and He has given us all the equipment we need. We've got more than enough of everything we need to live the life that He created us for. That's why I want to encourage you to do this, to reach out to God, allow Him to be big and huge in your life, and allow Him to do the good things that He wants to do with you. And I want to thank you for tuning in this week. I want to say, if this is something that resonates with you, to share with your friends and family. And I'm going to pray that God will bless you greatly, and that your life will continue to be a wonder and something beautiful for you and everyone that's around you. And someday I hope to be with you in His kingdom. And I want to thank you. This is Don Schaefer. You have yourself a great week, and tune in to our next show. Thank you.